You all know somebody, we all know somebody who's popping the Ozempic and all the knockoffs of Ozempic, right? It's that weight loss. It's not really a weight loss drug. That's the problem. It's for diabetics, but it's making people really skinny. You know, guys on it, you know, gals on it. We all know someone who has taken it, and you're like, what happened to you? You're half of what you were. Oh, Ozempic. Okay, fine. It is what it is. Well, people are attacking RFK Jr. because he is someone who believes in making America healthy again the old-fashioned way. You know, not eating crap, having a little exercise. It's just, you know, things that we used to do to, like, lose weight. But now everybody wants a pill. Everybody wants some kind of injection. And that's what we're about in America. So RFK Jr. has recently said that he believes things like Ozempic have a place. But it's still not something that he is generally a fan of. Now, of course, he is going to be Donald Trump's HHS secretary. That's the Department of Health and Human Services. And I hope he gets confirmed. There's a lot of stuff about RFK I don't like. Plenty of things about his politics I don't like. But in a country that is getting fatter and unhealthier by the year, and while other nations are seeing their lifespans increase, the United States is going in the wrong direction. I see no issue with giving a guy like RFK a shot. What, are we going to get less healthy? Are we going to get fatter? I mean, our obesity rate's over 40%. Don't tell, oh, we can't have RFK. He's not going to do good stuff for our health. Have you followed this country the last 20 years? We're a bunch of slobs. We eat a bunch of crap, processed foods. It's awful for us. So please spare me the outrage over RFK somehow making this country unhealthy. I don't want to hear it. So with that, Whoopi Goldberg goes off yesterday on RFK Jr. because he has not been a fan of the Ozempic and other drugs of its ilk. Now, he recently has rolled back some of those comments, and he says they have a place. But he's not changing his vision when it comes to making America healthy again, which is getting rid of some of the additives that are in our foods that we eat every day that make us addicted to those foods. The problem with a lot of the foods that we eat is, yes, they're heavily processed, and the additives in them make us want to eat more. Now, that's not an excuse to say, hey, you've got to watch yourself here. It's your job to obviously curtail how much you eat. But at the same time, there is a role for government to say, hey, if you are making people addictive and want to eat more, well, guess what? There's a societal cost to that the government can play a role in. But Whoopi, obviously, listen, the whole show on The View has completely lost its mind since Trump got elected 1 month ago. They don't know how to handle it. So now they're going after everybody and anybody, including RFK, who wanted to let you know that she was pushing 3 bills a couple of years back. And with that Ozempic, who knows where Whoopi's at today?
This isn't just about food.
No, it's not.
This is sometimes people are born genetically larger.
I didn't mean to.
No, I know you didn't.
Yeah.
But I want to say this to
RFK.
RFK? That's his name. Because you're setting folks up for shame.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying. Maybe you don't know you're doing. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say you don't know, you don't realize what you do to people when you say stuff like that, because it doesn't work for everybody. And I'm going to show you, sir, because I weighed close to 300 less than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And without the Mounjaro, this would not have happened.
There you go.
Take it off. Take it off.
And I try to tell everybody, listen, this worked for me. This may work for y'all. You cannot take it out of people's hands if it can help. Because if we can keep people healthy, if we can get rid of diabetes, if we can get rid of all of the things cardiovascular, what's wrong with trying to do that?
Nothing.
You're wrong on this, R.
Also, the side effects are not horrible. But what does Kimberly Guilfoyle think of it? That's what I want to know.
You mean
She's going to agree she got a body now.
Yeah. Where does Elon Musk come and RFK Jr., 2 medical experts? Who are they?
Elon's right on this.
Elon's right on this.
Yeah.
Also, maybe the brainworm will shrink.
Okay, I can't. That's. I've heard enough. We played 90 seconds of The View. We're good for about 7 months. That's enough.
I think the most egregious thing there was Whoopi playing liberally with the definition of the word close. Close to 300, Whoopi? You went a little beyond. You're underselling what you're trying to sell there.
Oh, that is very true there, John. Well done. You're right. Whoopi, and I love at the end, who are you, RFK? The current HHS secretary is a guy named Xavier Becerra, who is an attorney. Not exactly a man who's known for his information and knowledge on health in this country.
The shameful thing is that they're sitting there suggesting that we're fat shaming. The information would have been useful prior to the pandemic because what we found was that people with these pre-existing conditions, particularly being overweight, made you susceptible.
Yes, you're more likely to die.
Increase your susceptibility. Yeah.
That should have been the big push in this country to get people's butts in the gyms. Instead, what we did is shut down the gyms and say, go to the basement, don't worry. Turds like Rex Archer here in Kansas City will take care of you if you just listen to them. Don't go to restaurants, don't go to gyms, and then when we tell you to, take the right shots. It'll be just fine.
And eat lots of turkey.
Yes, lots of turkey from the old boy. Oh, I love Thanksgiving. Oh, I love it. I love it. And there's another issue with our drop board here. So RFK Jr. yesterday told CNBC, when asked how he felt about drugs that mimic the actions of the GLP-1 hormone, which is Ozempic, Wegovy, and all those. He said, quote, the first line of response should be lifestyle. It should be eating well, making sure that you don't get obese, and that those GLP drugs have a place. He said they have a place, but the first line should be lifestyle and eating well. What's controversial about that? Like, I don't care how Trump-triggered you are. Please tell me what is controversial about that statement by RFK. Now, when you heard the View host say at the end, Elon Musk is right, what they were referring to is 2 days ago, Elon said he believes nothing would do more to improve the health, lifespan, and quality of life for Americans than making the GLP drugs super low cost to the public. Because right now, the Ozempic and Wegovy's, as I understand it, they can run you up to $1,000 a month. They're not cheap. That's just what I've heard anecdotally, that they're very expensive. So Elon is saying, hey, how do we make this stuff really cheap so more people can take it so it's not just basically a skinny drug for people of means and rich people? Like, what can we do to make this thing available to people across the board? Now, that's a fine approach to take, but it's not a cure-all. And it shouldn't be viewed as a cure-all, right? And we don't really know what the long-term ramifications are of any of this. Like, let's be clear. They can say, oh, there's no side effects. It's healthy. You mean like the COVID shot was healthy and had no side effects and everyone was going to be fine? And wait, why are all these young men suddenly getting hurt? Oh, wow. You mean the studies actually come back and show that young men should not have been, young men in particular, but young people in general, should not have been taking the COVID shot. My primary doctor, I'll never forget it, last year, he was kind of beating around the bush because, this thing has become so stupidly political. He's like, you're taking your shots and, you're in pretty good health. And what are you thinking about the COVID shot? I'm like, not doing it, doc. He's like, no, yeah, I definitely wouldn't do it if I was you. You're young, you're healthy, you're fine. Okay, doc. Wasn't looking for the confirmation there. I wasn't doing it anyway, but I'm glad that we're on the same page. I appreciate that. Like, do we really know what the long-term ramifications are of this stuff with people who are not diabetic taking it? We really don't. Which is why RFK was fine to make the point in saying, listen, the first step, the most important part of how we view health in this country should be lifestyle and eating well, making sure you don't get obese. If you get there, then these GLP drugs may have a place. But we don't want to get to that point. That's the best case scenario.
Exactly. Like a jobs number revision. This year's wonder drug is next year's class action lawsuit. Yeah. Did you or a loved one take Ozempic? The commercials are loaded with things like that right now. Of something from 5 years ago. Right?
Yeah. Oh, gosh, I know.
Right.
Unbelievable. 913-408-7957. If you are someone who's taken the drug, I'd love to hear from you on it because I know there are thousands of you right now who have. And it's cool. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to shame you. Not here to do any of that. And Whoopi claiming that RFK is like fat shaming people. Please stop. First off, there's something in between the like, everyone is beautiful, big is beautiful, we love fat people, and fat shaming. Okay, can we find like a happy medium where we just say certain people need to get healthier, but we're not going to fat shame? There's a fine line here to all this. There always is. 913-408-7957. That's 913-408-7957. Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Text line is 913-408-7957. Pete, good morning. I like what you're saying on the health stuff, except we're not all slobs. Many of us are very healthy and fit. I'm not saying you are a slob. I'm not saying I'm a slob. I'm not saying John's a slob, although he likes a good Big Mac once in a while. I'm not saying,
I don't mind. You can throw whatever you want at me.
No,
I know the truth.
I know you
it's
know
funny.
the truth. You know your truth. My truth.
My truth.
Right? Mark's not a slob either. But as a society, we are.
Well, yeah.
Our obesity rate is over 40%. It doesn't mean you are one, but it means that culturally we are. So please don't take it personally. After Whoopi Goldberg got mad yesterday at RFK for questioning the value of things like Ozempic and Wegovy and all the other knockoffs, step one needs to be getting us to a place where less people need to potentially turn to Ozempic to lose all this weight, right? That's the thing that needs to happen. 913-408-7957. Linda's in Overland Park. Linda, you're on KCMO. Good morning. Happy Friday.
Good morning. Thank you. Happy Friday to you. So I was diagnosed with diabetes probably about 5 or 6 years ago. It's genetic. I'm also overweight. I'm also over 65. And my doctor in St. Louis wanted me to go on this Ozempic. And I looked it up, and at the time, I saw what looked to me like a black box warning. It scared me to death, and I refused. We moved here to Kansas City 3 years ago. My endocrinologist started pushing it here, and I kind of pushed back on her. And then she suggested I talk to my cardiologist, who I see more for preventative reasons than anything else, because it would be so good for me. I talked to him. He said, yeah, go on it. 18 months ago, I went on it. I also got the flu at the same time. I ended up with dehydration, spent a night in the hospital. Not sure which I blame it on now in retrospect, because as time went on, I had no appetite. My blood pressure I'm in the emergency room with blood pressure that was like 90 over 45. And that was consistent for most of that 18 months. Like when I went to go see my endocrinologist one day, they had to take my blood pressure twice. I talked to my cardiologist about it. They reduced the little bit of blood pressure medicine I was on, because that was preventing perfusion, to my other main organs, to the other things. I did lose 30 pounds on it, but then my iron started dropping. I have always been a very, very healthy person. And I went back to my endocrinologist and I said, I'm done. I do not want to be on this medication anymore. I never wanted to start it. And she said, well, the oral meds were actually working fine, but we just thought this would be good for you. I think there are so much that we don't know about this medication, and it scares the crap out of me what the long-term repercussions are with whatever's left of my short life. My hair's falling out. My blood pressure still drops once in a while, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. I think we know what we need to do, and we just don't do it in this country.
So you are taking oral pills for your diabetes that does help it. That's just not Ozempic.
Right. I take Aptos and Jardiance and Metformin. And she goes, well, those worked perfectly fine, but we just thought Ozempic would be better for you.
Wow.
I don't think so.
Wow.
One of the other things, if you also look, it loss of appetite, and if you go out and you look at the side effects, loss of a thirst mechanism, like you don't feel thirst. So when I go back to that hospitalization, I often think now that was about 2 months into my Ozempic administration. I often wonder now if that dehydration was related to that, because it scared me to death. So I always make sure to watch and I always drink a lot anyway. But anyway, I think that drug is a mess. And my niece apparently in Texas has lost a lot of weight on it. They're so thrilled because she's always been very overweight. And her mom says, yeah, we know there might be some long-term repercussions, and we know if she goes off of it, just like me, she'll probably put it back on, but for now it's really working well for her.
Linda, thank you for sharing the story. I do appreciate it. And then what you just brought up there is something that I haven't heard anybody who's taken Ozempic or Wegovy who's like, I'm going to get off it once I lose X amount of pounds. Literally, most people I know, I can't think of anybody who said otherwise to me, and I know a handful of people who are taking it, who are like, this is a miracle drug, and frankly, I'm addicted to it, not addicted to the drug, but addicted to how it's made me look and how I feel as a result of how it's made me look. Therefore, I can't fathom going off it because I don't have the confidence in myself to not go back to the way I was. And that's a self-confidence thing as much as anything. And that, to me, is just as concerning as anything else. I'm not ragging on it. I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying the health conversation in this country is so back-ass words in so many ways. Jonathan's in Kansas City. Go ahead. You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete. I have struggled with weight the last several years as I've gotten older. I guess that's a common occurrence for a lot of people as they get older. And when I was talking to my mom, she said, oh, well, she recommended I go on it. And, that's one of the concerns I stated to her was kind of what you're talking about. Well, isn't this a newer drug? Like, it hasn't been out very long. And, to your point, I mean, how many drugs, they market them for the longest time, and then a few years later, if you've been affected by this, call this attorney. I know Vioxx was a great example. The FDA approved that. I don't know if you remember that medication for blood pressure, and it was killing a lot of people, and they ended up pulling it off the market. And if COVID taught us anything, these health agencies do not do the due diligence that they're supposed to be doing when it comes to food and drugs. So it's like, well, just because they say it's okay and just because the drug companies say it's okay, I mean, like Dan Bongino always says, take a wait-and-see attitude. Like, we'll see. I know as I go into the new year, I'm looking at changing my diet, and I know that's going to be hard, but, I look at that and I'm like, well, that's what I should be doing anyway.
Yeah.
And what is wrong with doing it that old-fashioned way? Instead of like, well, yeah, what if I take these drugs and they help me in the short term, but then the long term, if
there's a downside,
health effects, they might be irreversible.
Yep. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. You're right, man. You are right. And I'm not trying to play doctor on the radio. It's more just about having a broader conversation about what a healthy American public looks like. Can this be beneficial to people? Absolutely. I mean, I know people who are looking great. The long-term stuff, I have no idea. I don't. But for anybody to say that RFK Jr. talking about how Ozempic can be part of the solution, but not the solution, it should be part of the conversation. But the first thing that needs to happen is improved lifestyles. And that's what you do, what you eat, so you don't have to get to the point of feeling like you need an Ozempic. And that is going to take a broader, not just conversation, but also crackdown on some of these companies. Kate actually made our first batch of homemade bread yesterday because the amount of crap that they put in the bread that we buy, I was shocked by.